All right, I believe we're ready to
How
go.
did he start the record? How did he restart it if there's no button?
I'm recording it on my phone. So
Okay.
let the
Do you
minutes
want to
show we're
wait?
making a good faith effort to record it.
Do you want to wait for Kim?
I'm here.
Oh,
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the May ESBC meeting. Rich Nichols asked whether or not he could abstain from tonight. He's got a work commitment. And Denise just sent me a note saying that she has been included in a work conference call, so she can't join either. So we are the voting members. Hello, Jim. How are you?
Hello, Wayne. I'm fine, thank you.
And so we have Chris. Are we having Charlie attend?
he's there.
I
I,
can't.
I exist.
Charlie exists. That's terrific. Uh, Welcome, Charlie. All right, then let's get started. Um, there's Charlie. Hello, Nancy.
Hi, Wayne.
Um, we got a number of things to go through tonight. Let's start with a construction update. And for that, Chris, I'm going to ask you, Julie Allen is not going to be joining us tonight. If you would give us an update quickly as to where we are on the outstanding items, I would appreciate that.
So Agostini has completed the bulk of their base contract work. There's only a select few items remaining, as we discussed at the last meeting, that we are waiting to complete. So those items amount to, just trying to find it in my list here. The letter that we received. So today they did the asphalt at the tennis court, the surfacing of the tennis court, and the tennis court fencing, as well as the tennis court gates, remain open. Those will be done. There's a certain amount of time that they have to wait on the surfacing before it can be applied. So those will be happening. That will need to happen first before we're able to. Before we'll be able to complete that. That would include the tennis court posts and nets as well. There's some play surfacing on the fire lane that's going to be painted by the same company doing the tennis court surfacing. So that is also outstanding. The irrigation box, I'm told it will be complete on June 1st. Eversource.
The irrigation box is for the soccer field that was behind the old Clyde Broad.
Correct. I'm told that will be complete on June 1st. The Eversource was on site today to connect the power, so the next step will be connecting the water. There's also a number of changes that are outstanding. Signage at the playgrounds and bus drop-off is a change order that's outstanding. Spanish signage within the building is outstanding. There is trim and finish around a light fixture, the bottom of stair 1 that is outstanding, and there's a replacement green screen in the steam room that is outstanding. There's also replacement fire gates related to having to reassign some work around the fencing subcontractor. That is also outstanding. Julie believes she can complete all of that work by July 10th.
And so she is looking for a no-cost change order to extend her contract to July
10th.
And at our last meeting, the committee approved the chairman's negotiation with that extension. I have just seen this. I've not spoken to Julie about it. Compass is comfortable, based on my discussions with them today, that the work can in fact be completed at this time. And so I'm comfortable in proceeding to this agreement with Agostini, with the caveat that if there is an additional extension beyond the 10th, that there is still no change fee. There's nothing that is magical about the 10th. This is a date picked by them. And if for some reason it turns out that the work does in fact extend beyond that, there is still no additional fee that would accrue, as far as I'm concerned. And I intend to hopefully have that agreement with them tomorrow. Any question from the committee in regard to that? Okay. Back on the tennis / pickleball court, as part of that paving that occurred today, Chris advised that the sleeves for the posts for the nets has also gone in. Is that correct, Chris?
Yes, the sleeves are already in place and they paved up to the sleeves today.
And when do we expect that those tennis courts, the fence around the tennis courts will be up? When will the tennis courts be playable, as far as you're aware at this point in time?
Realistically, you're probably looking at July 10th. Possibly a little bit sooner. She has the fencing complete on 6/26. She didn't give us a date yet for when the posts would go in, but my guess is, understanding recent events, the Department of Public Health may have a feeling on when they would want people to be playing on those tennis courts, and that could supersede when they're actually complete.
Okay, but the big change from last meeting is that we have a fence contractor who is now stepping in to actually perform the work that the previous fencing contractor stepped away from. We have the company that is doing the actual surfacing and the installation of the nets. They are on site. They are performing. So that work is proceeding. And
Correct.
That's a big change from the COVID-19 response that we had at the last meeting.
Yes, in terms of where the COVID items that we covered at the last meeting are, this past Saturday, Marguerite Concrete completed the 6 remaining curb cuts. The 2 at the Park Road, Park Street intersection, the 3 that are near the auxiliary lot that's on the drive as you head in towards the school, as well as the final one over at the 2-way stop by the S curve. So the concrete placement occurred and is complete. They did bring on a fairly local fence subcontractor, Fences by Steve. I believe they have a longer name than that, who is taking over the installation of the tennis court fences, as well as will be providing the material and installation of fences at the soccer field. So that's, and they're also currently negotiating how they're going to deal with the fire lane gates that were also owned by the fencing subcontractor. So that work is progressing. The other COVID-19 impact is a little bit of delay on our radon work. So we were hoping this past Friday to have completed the construction demo related to the radon work that we discussed last time. Unfortunately, the carpenter who was retained was part of a crew on another job that had a member of that crew test positive for COVID-19. So he was forced to self-isolate and suddenly unavailable to do the work. So Agostini is currently working to find a backup carpenter to be able to complete that work so that we can begin the construction related to the radon test.
And when do we hope to have that work completed. You had talked to me about Friday. Is that still a
Yeah.
possibility?
Julie's goal is Friday. She is having trouble. One of the things just in the broader construction world is that a lot of construction was authorized to resume on Monday as part of the governor's order. So she's having trouble lining up a carpenter to do that work. So she's currently working to find an alternative. Her goal, when I spoke to her before this call, was to still find someone for Friday, but that doesn't have any certainty at the moment.
What's that testing that GZA is doing, which is the permeability of the soil, the earth, the fill below the slab is determined, that then will provide one piece of information that will be pertinent to the scope of the overall fix. Once that is done, we're going to have a meeting with this committee, GZA, Compass, Agostini, about what the size, what the scope of that work is, who's going to do it, who's going to supervise it. That's going to be a somewhat bigger effort than, or potentially could be a somewhat bigger effort than installing one or two vents below the surface. We don't know that for certain yet, but we should anticipate that we will need to define the scope and define who's going to do the work, the roles, and the cost, just like we would do any other project. So that lies ahead.
Yeah, so to expand on that, Wayne, the proposal that the committee agreed to with GZA, the final step of that proposal after they complete this pilot test is to deliver a plan of vacuum points and the amount that the amount of vacuum that should be provided at those points as a recommendation for their design. That's typical of what you'd get from a geotechnical engineer. We will need to engage a subconsultant to complete the radon system in terms of designing through the building itself, and then hire a contractor to provide that radon system through the building itself. So that's the outstanding scope, which will be better defined by GZA's plan, but there is additional cost that's going to be associated with designing and installing that system as part of that next step. When we spoke to GZA last, they had this week and I think next week available for them to complete their pilot test, which is occurring at 2 locations in the building. But the delay related to COVID has sort of thrown that that plan for a loop. So we're actively working with both Agostini and GZA to find a new time to schedule that work.
So Nancy, at our last meeting, John Engler had indicated that students are coming back and teachers are coming back to the school to retrieve personal possessions, clean up the rooms. Can you give us some insight on that schedule and how that's proceeding?
Yeah, actually, John developed the schedule. Teachers are packing up their rooms. Students are not coming into the building. Families are picking up belongings curbside. So I'll let John speak to the schedule at Clyde Brown.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, Wayne. So teachers have been coming in. They've been gathering things for the students. They've been scheduled to pick them up at Clyde Brown. They've been coming in at certain periods of the day, grabbing their materials. And we're day 2 into this with no hiccups. And we're doing the same at the middle school, high school. Middle school is doing the same thing. And high school is yet to actually come by and pick things up. The seniors are done this week. Bob Mulaney's reaching out to the seniors to figure out what we're doing on that end, but everything seems to be going well on that end.
So John, in light of the timeframe that Chris Everly just talked about with GZA and Agostini's Carpenter, do you see that in any way being influenced by the teachers or anybody else being in the building, or any other reason why it couldn't proceed when they are available?
Well, no, originally, after this was canceled last week, we were under the impression that it might take place this Thursday, Friday. I was waiting for this call to see what was the next step, and I do know one of the rooms are completely empty, and we've made some barriers with some plastic sheathing in each one of these rooms to break down as much plume of dust as possible. So I think if we do finalize that people are coming out on Friday, then, and if the teacher's scheduled at that point, we'll just schedule that individual for another day and make sure that the radon stuff goes forward.
Okay, good. Well, Chris, then let's get on Agostini and see if we can get that work done on Friday, and let's proceed. It's we've talked about this for some time, and I know some of these issues are out of our control, but to the extent that we can make this happen, let's give it our best effort.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions about construction, progress, remaining items? Anything else that anybody would like to talk about in that regard?
Just one other note. As part of the construction contract, John Engler developed a 30-day warranty list, which are items that he has found within the building that he believes are related to the contractor's one-year warranty. He provided that list to Agostini, and they're currently in discussions over review and completion of that list.
Any feedback from Agostini as to whether or not they're resisting any of that?
I think that some of the items they will push back on, but I didn't expect. I have the lists queued up. I wasn't thinking we'd go through it. A lot of the issues were brought up as part of the 10-month commissioning review. So the electricians addressed a lot of those already. Are you seeing much progress on them, John?
Yeah, no, the plumbers came out to get to finish up their stuff, at least to get the stock to come out this Friday to finish up. And electricians are knocking it out of the ballpark as well. So yeah, they're chipping away at it at a very good rate.
And the booster pump, John, is performing as needed?
Yeah, it was, Wayne, when we did the commissioning part, but then we went into unoccupied mode again. So we felt it working pretty substantial before we went back to unoccupied mode. And if and when we get to that point, we'll kick it back in gear again.
All right. And Chris, what about the heat in room 250? Is that anything further to report on that?
The status of that is we were provided with sort of two solutions to pursue. My understanding is that Agostini is having both of them priced. One would be to manipulate the makeup air damper that's in the room so that it would remain open, to see if that can deal with the excess heat in the space. Jump the gun a little. The determination's been made through review by the engineer and the contractor that excess heat in the space from the boiler, the related piping, and just all the heat generating items that are in that room are raising the temperature of the room, and the raising the temperature of the room is heating the slab. The belief is that if we could regulate the temperature of that room when the boiler is on in a better manner, it would solve the heating problems that we're seeing in room 250, but also seeing in other rooms that are above the boiler room. So they suggested two solutions. One is the damper solution that I just described. The other solution would be to add an exhaust fan that would be temperature regulated, similar to what we did in the IDF room in D-Wing, and that would vent the hot air out of the boiler room when it got too hot in that room. So essentially, it'd be another means of lowering the temperature. So both of those solutions are currently being priced by Agostini, and we're waiting to see how that comes back.
All right. Well, I'm much more in favor of the former rather than the latter. We've got a huge damper in there. I can't see spending more money to create more mechanical equipment to exhaust something that we've created. So I'd like to see what is developed and what you and TAPPE recommend. All right. Anything else in regard to construction?
Wayne,
Yes, Diane.
based on the construction meeting last Thursday, Julie gave me an expected completion for the tennis and pickleball of 6 weeks. I've published that, and it seems like we're going to be short a couple of weeks. Chris, is that just sort of a casual July 10th date, or do you think her 6-week date still holds?
July 10th is the contract date that she proposed, and it's based on the latest completion item that she listed, which was the replacement green screen in the steam room.
Yep.
The fencing at the tennis court and the surfacing she had as 6/26. So
Okay.
6/26 is closer to that overall date, but what she didn't give me a date for that I don't have in front of me is the actual physical tennis court posts and nets. And obviously it's hard to play tennis without nets. So that would be I wouldn't know whether there's any impediment to that being done. That was another contractor that was delayed by COVID-19, but has since resumed, and so they've already sleeved. So the actual net post installation should be relatively straightforward.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Hey, Chris,
Yep.
with doing the paving today, how long does this have to stay before they put down that rubberized paint?
I think they said, I thought she said 14 days at the last
2
meeting.
weeks, yeah.
So it's not 2 weeks after the rubberized or after once they put the tar down?
There is a cure period after they apply the surfacing. Charlie, I don't know if you would know what that is.
Chris, she said 2 weeks last week in our meeting.
Yeah, I think it's something like 2 weeks, but I don't know precisely.
So that's, I mean, if you look at the dates she gave us, that's about what it adds up to.
So realistically, the fence will be up then. It'll be a lot easier to secure that place once the rubberized paving gets down then.
No, the rubberized surface will go down first, and then the fence will go down.
Okay.
Well, that was sort of where my question was coming from, is how do we keep people and dogs off of that surface?
Dogs has been the biggest problem. We discussed it with them that they needed to do something to protect the area. We did ask that they wrap it with caution tape or something to deal with that. We can discuss maybe snow fence or something a little more.
I was going to suggest snow fence. I think given our near disaster with the playground, I think we need something that is very clearly letting people know, don't walk on this.
We had a similar dog problem with a sidewalk pour on Saturday, so.
Okay.
Can't you put up some signage for the dogs?
Cones don't work. That's what I learned on Saturday.
Apparently, based on the TV ads, they talk, but they don't read.
Maybe they're Spanish immersion dogs.
That could be.
Need the Spanish signs.
Okie dokie. So who's going to take control? I'm certainly happy as part of the project to do whatever is necessary to secure the site until the construction is complete. And I guess that's what's being asked here. After that, it's going to be up to whomever, I'm not sure who that is as to secure, manage the operation of those courts. And I guess I'll just leave that as a comment and let somebody else address it at some other point in time.
We did bring that topic up at the last meeting, and I think, John, you were tasked with looking into how the school plans to manage access to the tennis courts. One of the sort of the only new change order I have on the agenda today is a discussion that came out of our last meeting of creating signage rules and usage for the basketball and tennis courts, in addition to the similar to what we put in for the playgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an open item that's that we discussed. It's ongoing.
And who's going to be handling that?
I believe it was initially tasked to the school to develop what they wanted their rules to be for the usage of that, because my understanding is that the tennis courts are a school facility. I know there was a line drawn in the sand as part of the pickleball discussion, but that my understanding that was going to be the starting point.
Chris?
Yes.
I think that half of the basketball courts are on school land, but the tennis courts are on town land. So I think we can take the responsibility of reaching out to Jim McKay to coordinate this.
Okay, good. Thanks, Nancy.
Okay, so I'm going to pass that up to John Engler and Terry to, we'll reach out and coordinate with the town on this.
Okay, do we have change orders, Chris?
We just have an update. We don't actually have any for vote. Last time we looked at or we authorized a not to exceed amount of $15,000 for the pilot test related construction. Assuming that we're not going to repair this because it'll eventually become a full radon system, we may only tap 5,000 of that. We added 171 to address the signage for basketball and tennis courts, but we don't actually have any for consideration this week.
All right. I know, Terry, you've got something pending. You wanted to make a proposal for microphones. We've talked about that a couple times. And John, I saw that you sent a note about a request for a hand-pushed lawnmower. Let's talk about both of those.
John, did you get you have the quote from Dave on the speakers?
I have two of them queued
on
up.
the microphones, rather. Yeah.
So, there were two quotes that John sent along to me.
Right.
I believe it's the pre-tax amount. So one was for, I think this is the better solution, which was $585.30. The other one was I believe, best solution was the way it was described to me, which is $1,871.52.
Right. And both will work. Obviously, we always want to get, the better items for our children. And there's a few more things we can do with them with the better solution, if you will. But I think the important thing is that these are the type of microphones, both options are the type of microphones that are designed to pick up, a group of students doing, whether it be choral singing or bands playing. They don't need to be directly in front of them. They're designed to pick up groups, if you will, as opposed to a handheld mic, which is the type of mics we have now, which are designed for somebody to take in their hand, hold up to their mouth and speak to. There's nothing wrong with the mics we have. They're just not designed for groups doing, again, singing, which is a lot of what elementary kids do. And that's what we're proposing.
Craig or Diane, would either of you have a question, or would you care to entertain them, make a motion?
I have a question. Why did we put the other mics in to start with?
I can't speak to that other than, again, I wasn't here, so nobody asked me. I don't know. I hear a lot that sometimes people feel that they weren't consulted on it. I don't know if that was the case with the microphones or not.
So the microphones that were specified were presumed to be for a speaker on the stage or somebody presenting from the stage. So it's not an unreasonable assumption that that would be useful to the school. I don't really know how that happened in terms of programming. I don't even remember if this was base contract or whether it was technology procurement.
Yes.
Base contract.
Okay,
Yeah.
so base contract, so the assumption was made that this would be what was, typical for a school. Given the limited amount of money that would be spent on these supplemental microphones, all it means is you now have a wider range of available microphones that allow you to customize whatever kind of event you have, right? So it isn't the original microphones aren't incorrect. They're simply for a specific purpose that wasn't porous.
Correct. You would need both. If you're
Right.
going to have speakers, like, for example, when we had the opening, you would need the other type of microphones. Absolutely. These are not going to suit a speaker any more than the ones we have for speakers suit a group of students singing to an audience.
So 2020 hindsight, perhaps during the procurement phase, we should have said to the music department, do you need choral microphones or something like that?
Yeah, it seems different use. I can see I'm okay with the amount there. I'll make a motion to fund the microphones for $1,988.49.
I think you need to delete the text from that.
Right.
Craig.
Oh, yeah.
Correct. Correct.
I
It would
would
be
do that.
1,871.
$1,871.52.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? By roll call, Craig, how do you vote?
Aye.
Diane, how do you vote?
Aye.
Wayne also votes aye. Motion carries unanimously. All right, next. Anything else, Terry, from your end?
I have something I want to bring up, but it's not a proposal at this point. And it's not a proposal very deliberately because Nancy and I were talking with Mike and Carol today, and I think the jury's still out exactly where this lies, but it's a COVID-related issue. Of course, as part of the building project, and this absolutely was per design and per request and what we wanted, at the elementary level and in one of the 5th grade classrooms, we have tables for students. We don't know yet what recommendation is going to be when kids come back, but we're pretty sure that if there is some requirement for distancing students, that tables are not going to work and that we may need desks. And so what I just want to put out there, and I'm not making a request at this point, is that we have done some preliminary pricing on desks to the tune of about $42,000, approximately, if I recall correctly, right on the button, to switch out the kindergarten and preschool tables and the 5th grade tables for desks. How that is going to be procured, if it needs to be procured, I want to stress if it needs to be procured, we still don't know, remains to be seen. But I want the committee to think about, if the guidelines come down and say, you got to have desks, you got to space them 6 feet apart, whether or not, the building project would consider funding that. Again, this is not a recommendation. we are making at this point. This is not a request we are making at this point, and there may in fact even be another funding source at this point. So this is still very preliminary, but I didn't want this to come as a surprise a month from now or sometime in the future. I wanted to just get this out there so it is something that may at some point in time come out. Hopefully it doesn't come to this committee, but it is out there as a possibility that we may need to replace that furniture based on COVID guidelines. And I think the sad part is it would probably be a temporary replacement because obviously if there becomes a vaccine, then we can go back to having tables.
Okay, well, keep us posted.
Okay.
Wayne, can I just interject for a minute?
Certainly.
And I'm sure that Terry was referring to this. This is clearly, in my book, an item that should be part of the town's submission for the funding under the CARES Act.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
We should start there because clearly it falls right squarely in that.
Yeah.
So hopefully we would be able to get funding for this kind of project from the CARES Act money.
Yeah, I agree, Jim. That's what I was thinking, and why I said I wasn't putting it out there as a proposal. And we don't even know what the guidance is going to be yet.
Right.
But if the guidance is that we need to do that, after we had Nancy and I and Mike and Carol had that discussion earlier today, and that was sort of my thought, is that if we need to do that, that kind of fell in that realm of a possibility there.
Okay.
So but I think you're bringing up tonight is very prudent. Thank you, Terry.
John, you want to add something?
Well, just the fact that if we are to go down that road and that we are limiting rooms, that number might have a possibility of going down only because we'll be taking other desks from other rooms that we can't put in those rooms because of the capacity, or the limited capacity, should I say. So if anything, that number has a good possibility of going down.
That's true.
But at this point, the timing for that application is very tight. We're trying to get everything pulled together in a week so that we can make the application to get the funding. So it's better to overshoot at this point than undershoot.
Yeah.
Right. I would agree, Jim, that the CARES Act would be the primary funding source target, and we would be a secondary consideration.
Okay.
All right. Okay. John, you wanted to talk about lawnmowers.
Yeah, I pretty much just threw it out to you and Terry to see, just to give Terry a heads up as well. I know I got raked across the coals the last time I brought up skid steer and stuff, so I'm still skittish on this.
So you're going to get good. Admire that.
So you want a skid steer with a lawnmower attachment to it? Is that what you're asking for, John?
It's not so much that. It's the groundskeeper and myself. We're taking a look at it, and some of these hills are steep that you actually can't drive. You can't use the mower that we did purchase for these areas. So, at the last minute, I'm throwing out there to see if we could possibly get a 30-something inch walk behind mower that will help us on some of the inclines, some of the swells, some of the catch basin areas that we have concerns about. So, I'm sorry?
Do you have a quote, John?
So I threw out to you, I think it was 13.5. I don't have, I didn't get anything in writing out to you guys except for the fact that I've got a rough number of 13.5.
Well, if you'd like to make a formal request to the committee, give us a proposal with a specific number on it, and we'll take it.
And it's not 13,000; it's 1,350. So I will.
Okay,
that's better.
Sorry about that.
Jeez.
Yeah. So I will get back to you on that, but it is 1,350. My apologies.
Okay. All right. 13.5.
Nice tactic, John.
Yeah, that's the way to sell it.
Overpaid.
I'm just wondering if Jim picked himself up off the floor, that's all.
I'm thinking, my goodness.
He was
have
ready
asked
to
for-
buy a skid steer for that.
Should have asked for a $270,000 skid steer.
Yeah.
Would have been approved.
Well, I was actually thinking is that as all kinds of COVID precautions around it, so maybe we can throw that into.
Keeps the grass low. That might help. I don't know. I'm stretching here.
I just, oh, here's my meeting. Here we go. All right, are we ready to, oh, we have a community communication update. Diane, you put out something regarding pickleball, is that correct?
Yes, it's the second time I've answered questions. So I put something on the school site on Facebook, and there are people asking. They want to know when the courts will be available, and I gave them the approximately 6 weeks date and said that they could find updates on the site. I did talk to John McVeigh about how soon he would authorize usage, and he said, depends on the governor's guidelines. He did not seem to think that pickleball was particularly good for social distancing, or tennis for that matter.
Well, I think you better hurry on out and buy your pickleball paddle.
Yeah,
All right. Anything else? I would think the next update that we would consider would be either an update on that, and then Diane, the radon
yeah.
schedule. If we have our test results back, we should be sending something out by on that.
Nancy, are you still with us?
She is.
Oh,
great.
I did. Sorry, I'm here.
I was wondering if you plan to send anything out to the parents. I mean, school's not in session about radon.
We will be discussing that tomorrow night at school committee. Since it does not impact any students or staff, pretty much, we are discussing what the need is.
Okay,
All right. Well, we will certainly have the information, and you can choose to disseminate whatever you think is appropriate.
That would be great if somebody, doesn't mind sending me sort of the summary of when, etc.
Sure. As soon as we figure that out with our carpenter and our
thank you.
consultant, we will let you know. All right. Okay. Anything else, Diane, with communications?
no,
All right. Let's pay some bills.
One other thing I just wanted to update the committee on. Since we last met, we did have Colliers, the commissioning agent, come in and do their 10-month review. We met on site separately with the electrician and HVAC plumbing sub to review open issues that most of which are captured on John's warranty list, as well as some of the ongoing issues like room 250. So they issued an updated field report as well as an updated issues list. A lot of the items on this list have already been addressed. They do still have one more visit in June where they'll be coming out to review these items as well as anything else that arises between then and now.
So, Chris, this report went to the MSBA. Have we heard any feedback from them regarding commissioning?
I don't think there's anything out of the ordinary in this particular list. So what the response that we got was it was good that we got it in, understanding all the limitations that COVID presented to try and have a meeting to discuss things. And so they were pleased with that.
But
There wasn't any.
Nothing substantive from them, from the MSBA regarding the results of the commissioning.
No, the room 250 is a little odd, but the rest of these are standard process for, you know, there's always little things, and those little things just need to be cleaned up as time goes on.
Where do we stand with our energy credits? What's our the
Chips?
Chips or the rebates?
Both.
I believe the town has already received checks related to the energy rebates.
No,
And
I'm talking about chips.
Okay, specifically chips. Charlie, do you want to take that?
So CHIPS will have to close out the project, which we've already said we were going to do in June. In terms of finalizing documentation, we make a final submission to the to CHIPS, and then after they do their final audit and review, we just receive notification that that it has been certified, and that's really the end of the process. You don't really receive anything other than a certification. However, you do receive reimbursement from the MSBA, so that's why it's critical.
Right.
And that usually, I mean, most all the reviews of CHIPS takes a couple of months, and I don't know how busy or slow they are, but I would expect that if we, you know, do make a final submission early summer, we might hear back from them late summer or early fall.
So we should put this on a diary for like beginning of September to see where they're at.
Yeah, I mean, we'll obviously keep you apprised, and I don't think you're going to get the final audit with the MSBA probably until the fall, so the timing should work fine.
And some of the outstanding items on the CHIPS list are items that the school was developing. So we've been in talks with John Engler, and I think John's been in talks with some other folks in the school to make sure that all of those requirements that need to be met get met.
Are our vehicle charging stations live?
I do not know the answer to that. They're fully installed. I don't know if they're turned on.
Does anyone have an electric car that we can test it?
No.
Let's follow up with Julie on that. And if so, who's paying the bill? Who pays the electric bill for that?
They are powered by the school.
So if this becomes a popular place for people to charge their vehicles, this becomes a variable expense that will be part of the school budget. Is that?
I don't know what the control scheme for those is. It's not something that I've looked at in detail. But the question did come up from the town of where the electricity for the new site lighting that's been installed and for the vehicle charging stations came from, and both of those originate within the school and the school's Eversource account.
Do they have a separate meter?
I think the only thing that's on a sub-meter is the sports lighting, and the sub-meter is informational only. It's not connected to the billing.
So I would have no way of telling if I'm getting a whole slew of people charging their cars.
That's my question, Terry.
I don't know if you know the answer to that, Charlie. I don't believe any provision was made to separate out the charging stations from the broader school power.
I definitively don't have an answer. I would say that the theory behind all of this is that this supports faculty and staff and visitors during the day. So worst case, the issue is a policing issue. If you have people who are literally parking their cars in the evening in your parking lots and coming back in the morning to get them fully charged, then you might have an enforcement topic. But beyond that, it's in concept for school use.
Well, Terry, sounds like you're the stakeholder there. You may be motivated to figure out how to manage that.
Well, there may be a way to read the, hours on them or something. I don't know. I'll go take a look at one of them.
All right. Okay.
Wayne, I have a question that I
Sure.
forgot. I got an inquiry from a member of our select board, not the one I live with and not the one I see here. So she was walking around and saw a camera mounted on the roof, on the front entrance roof close to Sea Wing, and wanted to know what those ugly ballasts were.
So that's the
Chris knows
those are the EarthCam cameras. So the EarthCam camera that faced it was relocated to face the trailers and the demolition site at the end of the construction phase last year. And so the ballast, it's common for temporary supports like that to have heavy weights placed on them in order to keep the base stable. So what you're seeing, if you're far enough away, what you're seeing is the cinder blocks that they use as ballast for the platform that the camera sits on. So I would imagine Julie is terminating that soon, but I will follow up with her to find out what the status of terminating the EarthCams are.
Chris, do we have all the cameras we're supposed to have for security?
It's unrelated. That's unrelated to security. That was the construction monitoring EarthCam. All of the school, I believe all the school related security cameras are already installed.
Yeah,
Okay.
This is completely unrelated. This is just
Okay.
the construction camera.
Thank you.
Okay. Chris, what do we have for invoices? Or Kim, do you want to lead us through the VIP?
Sure, I can put up the invoices. We have, hold on, saying desktop sharing isn't supported by my browser. So if Chris can put it up, that'd be good. We have one from Agostini, their latest rec for $404,000, $438.36 for April.
And Chris, as I ask every time here, how much of this is retainage that we're releasing?
Sorry, I was muted. And in true fashion, it has locked up on me. So give me 1 second to pull it up.
Weren't there pages in this with all the retainage highlighted?
So I did forward on. I don't have an easy way to share. So within this month, we received retainage requests from Allegheny Flooring, who provided the carpet, NB Kenny HVAC, and NB Kenny Plumbing. To refresh the committee, NB Kenny previously had their plumbing released almost in full. We held $1 to keep their contract open, and the only remaining item was the booster pump. They They've completed everything but the booster pump, but essentially we've released all but $1 of their retainage. So at this point, we're holding the full value of whatever completed work they have, which is $5,000, which is to insulate related to the booster pump, but otherwise their retainage has been released. MB Kenny HVAC, we released 9,000 of their 10,000 remaining retainage. Previously, we had released up to that point. The 1,000 is just for a few minor outstanding items in the commissioning list, open items list, and we released the full retainage of Allegheny flooring, the carpet sub, which was $3,493.85.
Okay. You're comfortable with all of those?
I am.
All right. So the majority of the Agostini bill for this is April is paving then for Dorenzo. Is that correct?
A good amount of it is Dorenzo. Per Rich's comment last month, we included in the VIP the 14-page
The detail by
schedule of
by
values with the full detail. The biggest items this month was largely site work related, which includes both Dorenzo finishing out their paving and also the landscape sub finishing out a lot of their landscape. There's also 95,000 in change orders, and I believe, I want to say a third of that was the booster pump. So of that, no, half of that was the booster pump, the 54,285 for the booster pump. The irrigation at the soccer field was a significant chunk of that change order number as well. And then there were some minor things previously approved, such as, some additional hardware and some other just minor change orders.
Okay, any questions?
You want a motion to approve the invoice?
I would entertain a motion.
So.
I make a motion to pay Agostini Bacon $404,438.36.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? By roll, Craig, how do you vote?
Aye.
Diane, how do you vote?
Aye.
Wayne Clocko votes aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay. We have an invoice for TAPE for $27,312.82 for
This is-
the month of April as well.
And this is construction administration? No, we've completed that. We're in the completion mode. Is that correct, Charlie?
That is correct. So the way the standard MSBA owner designer contract is written, it requires a closeout phase. So we essentially put the closeout phase at the end of the job and just bill against that in a similar manner as we've been billing against construction administration.
So Charlie, this would tell me at 56% and at a rate of $26,000 a month, you've got 4 more months where you'll be billing at this rate, or how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, we tend to bill at we bill at a standard percentage per month. That is correct.
All right. And if for some reason we go beyond the next 4 months at $26,000. Let's see, that's, so this bill is for April, so May, June, July, August. By September 1, if we're not totally complete, what happened?
We're changing our phone numbers so you can't get a hold of us.
No,
And-
see, no,
and
that was
moving.
my answer, Charlie.
We're not going anywhere.
Okay, all right,
We will still service our clients.
thank you. You've done a,
Come out whenever we have to and do whatever we need to do.
thank
But
you,
we will at some point complete our billing.
understood. Well, you've done an admirable job and we appreciate it. So, just clarifying how we wrap things up.
Yeah, we tend to just bill out and then just, there's no magic formula to that, and nothing is signed or sealed or delivered. There's no milestone. We tend to just bill out, and then if there's still more activity, we just continue to work on it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll move that let me find the invoice. Hang on a second here.
It's on the screen.
Back. Yeah, it's falling to the back behind something else. I move that now I can't see it.
It's gonna zoom in for you.
Perfect.
No, I found it first. I move that we pay $27,312.82.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded to pay TEPA $27,312.82. Any further discussion? All right, by roll, Charlie, or Craig, how do you vote?
Aye.
Diane, how do you vote?
aye.
Wayne Clocko votes aye. Charlie, as an aside, when will we expect to see Jen Littlefield?
You're missing her. She is due back on June 1, Monday, June 1.
Okay,
And her first task is going to be to wrap up everything that's outstanding on this project. So I think CHIPS is the major hurdle left for us, but I do think there are a few submissions that Julie may have put in that have never been processed, kind of closeout documentation that we've never formally closed and acknowledged that need to, I think there's a little bit of paperwork out there that we need to complete. So that'll happen as soon as she gets back.
okay. Actually, that prompts another question on my part. Chris, we've
Yes.
been asking Agostini for as-bills. When are we going to get those?
She confirmed on Thursday that she has delivered those to John,
They've been delivered?
to John Engler.
That's
The
correct.
dark shadow in the middle of the screen.
All right. In what form were they delivered, Chris?
They were delivered in paper form. I do believe she might still owe you thumb drives.
She should be providing the school and the DPW those electronically.
John, did she give you thumb drives or just paper?
Just paper. After the fact, we conversed by email saying that we never did that as well. So she is aware.
Will you follow up with her, Chris, on
Yep.
on the electronic versions? All right. All right. Kim, what's next on bill paying?
We have one from Compass for $25,375.40 for the month of April.
And that is also in the closeout phase. If I'm correct, is it? No, that's in the.
No, we have
Is that the final of the construction? No.
approximately 1 month of construction administration remaining.
All right. And that should frankly take us up, well, through the end of May. Will be, Chris, except for radon, this will deal with quite a bit of the remaining items that are outstanding.
Yeah, there's not a permanent or a continuous presence by contractors on the site, so we believe that this will cover what remains of the actual infield construction.
All right.
We've been going out 2 to 3 times a week, as depending on events on site. I was out there on Saturday reviewing the concrete pour, which is how I knew a dog walked through it. And I was out there today reviewing the asphalt placement.
All right. Let me know when you're going to be out there next. As we discussed earlier, I'd like to walk the perimeter with you and all the construction that's happened in the last couple of weeks. And I'd like to go through that with you.
Doesn't he have his roof walk?
I'm still waiting to hear when Stanley is available, but I'm not willing to release the retainage on the roof until we have the roof inspection.
Didn't we talk about that on Thursday, Chris?
Yeah, but we didn't. That is currently it's not Stanley. It's the representative of the roofing manufacturer who actually does the walk. And
right.
I think he was not comfortable with the COVID situation.
Right.
So he was waiting to feel comfortable with that situation before he met on site for a meeting. So now that the governor's released information on Monday, I just made a note that I'll check with Julie on that and see if that situation has changed.
Good. Okay.
So are we ready for a motion on Compass?
I am.
I make a motion that we approve the invoice for April for Compass Project Management in the amount of $25,375.40. How much cents?
No, it's 40 cents.
40 cents. Okay.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Diane, how do you vote?
Aye.
Craig, how do you vote?
Aye.
Wayne Clocko votes aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, we have one more invoice from GZA for $2,924.59 for professional services through April 24th.
Chris, have you confirmed that the GZA invoice complies with their proposal?
Yes, we reviewed the GZA invoice against their proposal. I would also note that they removed the communication fee that Rich Nichols had requested be removed, and a future invoice will include the credit for the previously billed communication fees.
All right, would somebody like to make a motion?
Your turn, Craig.
All right. I can't see the amount. Can you? That my communications bars. It wasn't the size; it was the bar was blocking it.
Look at that.
I moved. We paid GZA $2,924.59.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Craig, how do you vote?
Aye.
Diane, how do you vote?
Aye.
Wayne votes aye. Motion carries unanimously.
So that was the last invoice that I had. We do have minutes from April 21st.
I make a motion that we approve the April 21st minutes as drafted and as posted.
Second.
Any discussion? Craig, how do you vote?
Aye.
Diane, how do you vote?
Aye.
Wayne votes aye. Motion carries unanimously. All right. Our next meeting, I would expect, will be, Jim, what do you think? Will we be meeting in person by this time next month, or will we still be meeting remotely?
I would say 50-50.
50/50.
Bold prediction.
Yeah. You notice the governor did not say anything in his guidelines about municipal business, so still.
Meet on the football field.
And
After the discussion we
Next
had about
meeting.
mosquitoes,
During the day. Just meet in my backyard.
Why
I'll
aren't
set up chairs and a
you,
fire ring.
we will also, will we have had our town meeting and election by then as well?
Election day is scheduled for June 22nd, and the town meeting is scheduled for June 29th.
Oh, all right. I thought they were earlier than that. All right, so we will
They
meet
were.
before then.
They
so
were.
the
They were-
current
Oh.
placeholder is June 16th. The following Tuesday is June 23rd.
So, the schedule is determined on when you get your pencil rec, Chris. When do you expect to have that and be ready to?
I think June. I think June 16th might be pushing it, to be honest.
So how about the
So-
23rd?
23rd is probably better.
All right, let's do the 23rd. Terry, John, Nancy, anybody know if you have a school committee meeting?
Nancy's off. I see Terry's there, but I don't
I
like
am
this.
here. I am here, and I don't know. Let's see. We're gonna have one. We're gonna have one Wednesday. Then we'll have it's possible. You got a calendar in front of you there, John?
I do.
All right. Let me try to get to mine too. It sounds possible. Ah, okay. Let me try to get to my calendar.
Yeah, so what, you're tomorrow, which is the 20th?
Yeah, but we're having it Wednesday was unusual for us because we're accommodating this meeting.
Right.
So normally it's going to be on a Tuesday.
So that
So our next meeting should be June 2nd, which means the meeting after that should be the 16th.
All right,
So
let's lock the
23rd.
23rd then.
Yeah, 23rd should be good.
Good. All right.
Now I've said that and I'll probably be a liar, but
All right. Well, let's shoot for the 23rd. I received an email, and I apologize, I've been away, and I just skimmed it. It came from Loring Barnes, and it had to do with playing fields. And I'm not sure who all was on it. In fact, I didn't even look to see who was on it, but it had something to do with playing fields being encroaching upon playgrounds and the school, and perhaps enhancements to the playing fields should be funded from this budget. And I think that's accurate, but obviously a shorthanded version of what the email said. I can forward it to the committee. But my immediate reaction was, we deliberately cited this building so that it would not infringe upon any of the playing fields.
Did we not, Wayne, did we not have engineers come out and validate the safety of the playgrounds?
I don't recall doing that, Diane, but
Playgrounds
think
have to be safety tested as part of the approval
Yeah.
process. So
playgrounds
there was a playground inspection for all of the equipment that was installed, and they do a litany of tests. But those wouldn't expand to the playing fields.
Okay. I have a little background, Wayne. I'll be happy to go over it maybe tomorrow with you.
all right, well, I wanted to advise the committee that this question had been raised. The specific question is to wouldn't, and I'm quoting from the email, wouldn't this scenario make any corrective fencing backstops eligible, if not an obligation of the new CFB school project? Well, I have several problems with that. One is any corrective action is not an accurate description of anything that's being discussed. And I don't believe that anything that we've done would create additional scope beyond what has already been contemplated.
Jim McCaffrey, is there not a warrant article on about this playing fields and?
Let me state two things. The first thing I would say is that the request that you are quoting from, Wayne, is definitely not a position that the board has taken. That is clearly a request from a member who is not representative of the board's. This has not been brought to the Board of Selectmen. It's not something that the board supports. So that's number one. Number two is there's a warrant article which relates to a request by a group of basically Millis baseball to have funding provided by the CPC to do some work on the fields. So at this point, that's what the warrant article is. We have no number yet. And it's not clear to me at this point. I wish I could tell you with more clarity exactly where this is going. It was brought to the board before. The board did ask for some additional input from other parties. And as far as I'm aware, that hasn't happened. So this is something that I can't give any more clarity than that, other than what I can say definitely is the request from the board chair does not reflect conversation or a vote by the select board.
All right. Well, then I guess my only comment to you, Jim, would be as if this were to come up at town meeting, and again, this is just looking into the future, and ask the question, and it's been asked a number of times already, that this project is within budget, and people seem to have an interest in spending that additional money, without any vote from the committee taking any official position about what is or not in scope. My only comment would be at a meeting would be that nothing was done to infringe upon the playing fields, and wouldn't believe that anything would be in scope for that reason.
Well, Wayne, I'll speak for myself because I can't speak for the board on this point. Since I've been an ex officio member of the board of this committee, in my view, has taken a highly consistent and principled position that the funding that was authorized is for this project and the scope of the project. Things that fall outside of the scope of the project are not part of your stewardship, and therefore should not be funded out of the ESBC funding. That's certainly what you folks have done since I joined the group. And I personally support that because I think that is a prudent and reasonable position to take. This is not a bank account that others can come along and say, hey, why don't we use some of it too? So I think that I would just repeat myself. And as far as I'm concerned, is out of scope and therefore should not be funded by this VSBC.
All right. Well, I wasn't sure if anybody else was aware of it. I saw it for the first time this afternoon, was surprised to see it. And so if the committee had any comment about it prior to town meeting, I guess they should be prepared to speak to it if they so choose. All right.
Yeah, we've been consistently not spending money, as Jim pointed out. It's surprising that that we'd be asked to for something that's clearly out of scope. So,
Okay. All right. This goes in the bucket with the skid steer. How's that, John?
I'm still down one because I lost pickleball as well.
and the $13,000 tractor.
No, you didn't. You got your location.
All right. All right. Anything else the committee needs to consider before we adjourn?
Just that John looks like he's in witness protection. It's a scary sight.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. In that case, let's motion to adjourn.
Move
Second.
adjourn. All right.
Good night, everyone. Thank
Night.
you.
Good night.